Hi, my name is Natalie, and I've been teaching and practicing tantric meditations and healing and inner work for the past 10 years. Today I wanted to talk about the size of your penis. Can you make it bigger? What can you do about it? I have watched some videos on YouTube and I saw some professional people talking about it, and they were talking about all these kind of weird devices that you can put on your penis. And I wanted to talk about the subject of size from a tantric perspective, which I think is a human perspective of people who are actually connected to their emotions and want to feel good about themselves. Size of penises, of lingams, as we call the penis in Tantra. And we do it, by the way, in order to create a more sacred energy around, that organ, the sexual organ, and so it's not so simplistic and animalistic and physical, to add a spiritual element to it and to respect the amazing organ of men, which is the penis, and we're going to call it from now on the lingam. So can you make your lingam bigger? And I wanted to first of all talk about it from an emotional perspective, because I think a lot of men are so insecure about the size of their penis. And if we talk, or of their lingam, sorry, it's a habit. If we talk physical size, you're supposed to measure your lingam when it's erect. And I think a lot of men measure it when it's flaccid. And so it's going to be a lot smaller. You need to measure it when it's erect, because some men are growers and some men are showers. That means that for some men, the lingam, even when it's not erect, it looks big, but then when it does become erect, it doesn't grow that much, it just gets harder. And for other men, when it's not erect, it's small, but when it gets erect, it's normal size, big size. So what is small, what is normal, what is big? I am a woman talking about the size of your sexual organs. So I'm talking about it from a female perspective, and I think that's important. By the way, not a doctor, not giving out any medical advice, but as a woman who has had sex with men and who does emotional sessions with men, I wanted to open up this subject from a loving, compassionate place, but also let's talk about the truth here. Most men have an average size lingam when it's erect, which from what I read is about 13 to 14 centimeters. Translate that into inches, I talk centimeters. So for most men, when their lingam is erect, that's the size it's going to be. Yes, some men have very small lingams, so even when they're erect, they won't get to 14 centimeters. And other men have very big lingams, which means it might be a lot longer than 14 centimeters. But the average man, which is most of my viewers and most of the people I talk to and most of the men I had sex with in my life, had an average size, which means when it's erect, it's about 14 centimeters. I have had sex with men who had a smaller lingam when it wasn't erect, but then it kind of grew to that size. And I've had sex with men who it was always big and then it just got a bit harder when it was erect. For most men, the average size is what they have. I also want to tell you that as a woman, some of the best sexual experiences that I've had in my life were with average sized penises. And I can also tell you, I missed that, lingams. I can also tell you that the times where I had the most issues down there, like medical issues that I had to take care of, was with men with big lingams, and that was not as fun as the average size. So I always try to tell men, you're fine. It's a little bit above 14, a little bit below 14, but in general, average is good when we're talking about sexual organs. Another thing I wanted to say is that the woman's vagina, the whole area there, is very flexible. A baby can come out of it, which means it can go really big, but when it's just resting, it's very tight and closed up. For some women, that's because they're nervous when they have sex or because they don't feel comfortable to let go. But in general, even if I'm very comfortable and connected to my sexuality, the canal that you're going to go into is very tight. So as women, we can feel a finger inside and it can be pleasurable for us. Lesbian women have more orgasms than straight women, and they are touched by human beings who do not have a lingam. So a finger is enough for us to experience pleasure because everything in there is very tight. So we don't need it to be very big in order to experience pleasure when we're having sex with you. I think the size of the lingam is more psychological. I think it's an emotional blockage of men who think they're not enough, who have compared themselves to other men who have bigger lingams than them, or most men who compare the size of their lingam to the penises that you see in porn, and I'm saying penises on purpose, which are huge. And if you think about it, a very small percentage of people are porn stars. That's a very specific requirement to be in those movies, and it's a very small percentage of the population who have that size of a lingam. That's not normal, it's not average, and most men don't. So we have to make sure who we're comparing ourselves to. I promise you that if you take all your friends and you all get an erection and compare sizes, more or less when it's erect, it's going to be about the same size. There are variations, different, it's different from man to man, but more or less the size is the same. I can say the same about boobs. Like most women have cup B or C. Most women, it's just average size boobies. Some have very small ones, some have very big ones. Yes, with women we can have operations and surgeries in order to enhance them and to enlarge them. I don't think that's very healthy, and I think that from what I know from women, it causes a lot of damage throughout their lives. So even the doctor that I saw talking about this on YouTube did not recommend any of the injections or the weird surgeries or things that you can do to your lingam in order to make it bigger. And she also talked about the psychological element. And I think that for someone who feels like he's enough, someone who's like self-confident in life, he'll be confident about the size of his lingam and he won't be comparing it to other people. So we need to ask ourselves, like, why am I so obsessed with the size of my lingam? Why don't I think it's good enough? Why am I comparing myself to other people? And self-acceptance, which is a big stage in any kind of like healing journey or process that we're going through, is first of all accepting myself as I am. Saying thank you for what I did get. Because a lot of, there are some men with micro penises and they're very, very tiny, and you don't have that. So appreciate what we do have. Be grateful for what we do have. And understand that it's not a physical thing. It's more of an emotional thing. Because I have met men who are so confident in themselves, and they had small lingams, but it didn't really bother me during the sex. Because the self-confidence is the energy, the vibe that I come with. And a man who understands that the size is not the issue, but it's the intimacy and the way I touch a woman and the way I look at a woman and the way I feel a woman and the way I pleasure her and the way I bring myself to the sexual interactions. These are the things that really matter. It does not fall just on the size of your lingam. I think most women don't really care that much. We'd rather have someone who with the average size and not very small, but if we fall in love with a man and it's very small, I don't think we would mind that much. I've also talked to women who have married men with smaller lingams, but they just didn't really care that much. And they found a way to enjoy the sexuality with the man because they loved him so much. And I think that's the point. I think that we want to find a woman who's going to love and accept us for who we are, whatever size we have. And in order for us to be able to find that woman, we need to accept our own penis and the size of our lingam and be okay with it. Some men are short. There's nothing they can do about that. But I've met really self-confident short men who dated whoever they wanted. And I've met very low self-confident short men who have never had a relationship because of their insecurities, because of their height. It's not about the physical element. It's about the emotional element and how we feel about ourselves. Saying all of that, from a tantric perspective, of course, there is things that we can do with our lingam. I can't promise that it's going to make it bigger because I don't have one and I've never tried doing these things, so I don't really know. And again, I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know. But in Tantra, and I know Mantak Chia does talk about this on YouTube in some of his videos, if you do these tantric exercises of pulling it in different ways and breathing, and while you're pulling it in different ways, sending it love, like, oh my God, I love you so much. Thank you for all the pleasure. So if we do like love exercises and we pull on it a little bit in different areas and we press on it and we give physical and mental love to our lingam, it might grow a little bit. That's what I know from the world of Tantra. But because Tantra isn't about, when we look at sex from a tantric perspective, it's not about orgasming. It's not about performance. It's not about achieving any goals. It's about connecting to our life energy within ourselves and then with someone else. The size of the lingam has no significance. It does not really matter. And I think, this is such a big subject. I've talked about it a lot in the past, and so many men talk to me about it. I really think it's an emotional issue. I really think a lot of men don't accept themselves, don't feel worthy, don't feel that they're good enough. And I think that projects onto their lingam. And I think that those projections can actually energetically make your lingam even smaller than it actually is. So we want to give love to our lingam. We want to touch it in a loving way. We want to be grateful. We want to be best friends with him. We want to be a team. And, in my team, I might have someone who's disabled or who is short, but he's on our team and we're with him. We're going to win with him. We're on the same side. So whatever size I have and whatever thoughts I have about if it's good enough or not good enough, every man has a different lingam. Some are more crooked, some are more straight, some are more fat, some are more slim, some are longer, some are shorter. It's the magical variation of life. Just like every flower isn't exactly the same, they look the same, but if you look into detail, they're not the same, and no two cells are the same, no two fingerprints are the same. Nature is so wonderful and magical in that variation, but us as human beings, we think there's a standard, and if we don't meet that standard, then we're not good enough, and then we're really mean to ourselves inside of our heads, and I think that causes a lot of distress. And I also think there are a lot of men who are obsessed about the size of their genitals, and personally, I would say that the men who are obsessed with the size of their penis or their lingam are probably men who have not had a lot of sex with women, because women are not men. We don't look at size. We don't measure things. We don't look at things with, in terms of numbers and measurements and success or failure. We are more emotional beings, and we want to have a real connection with you. And we want to feel that that connection is also present in our sexual interactions. And that's what we really care about. So like I said, a lot of the really good sex I've had in life was with average size lingams, and I wasn't even thinking about the size of it at the time because there was something in the intimacy and the attraction and the things that we were doing that was so good and fun and pleasurable that the size wasn't even like something that came into my mind, and it was average. So that's how me as a tantric woman, that's how I look at this subject. That's how I talk to men about it. And we all have our imperfections. And healing is learning how to love and accept our imperfections for what they are. Not by changing ourselves, not by fixing ourselves, not by doing anything external in order to feel better, but by accepting what we have, all the gifts that we have, including our body and the size of our different organs, are the gifts that we received from God. And we want to be grateful for them. And I want to admire and appreciate the differences between us and not try to be the same as other people. So that's how I would look at it from a tantric point of view. If you like this video and if it resonated with you, please like. And if you want to see more of these videos, you're more than welcome to subscribe. And I just opened a subscription membership area if you want to support me and my channel and the content that I create. And I will also try and upload more exclusive content for members only. So if you want to do that, please become a member, subscribe. I appreciate all your views and comments, so please keep on commenting and tell me how your relationship is with the size of your lingam. How have you come to terms with it? How have you learned to accept it and love it just the way it is? I would love to hear from you. And yeah, that's it for this subject. I'll probably talk about it more in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.